Go ahead.
Good evening. This is Geeta Mallikarjunan, CEO of HMA. And on behalf of Hyderabad Management Association, I welcome you to the first session of this HMA year on a very interesting topic, personal branding for leaders, why and how, by Ms. Uma Kas, who is the founder of The Star in Me. I welcome our MC members, past presidents, HMA members, our students from our institution's student chapter, others who are present on this platform, and also viewing us live. I take this opportunity to welcome our Vice President and Convener of Lecture Meetings, Mr. Jeevan Naidu, our Secretary, Mr. Chandrasekhar, our Speaker for the day, Ms. Uma Kasoji. And with this, I hand the floor to our President, Mr. Ramchandra, to take the meeting forward.
Thank you, Geeta ji. A very good evening and a warm welcome to all August members and friends of HMA, young management students who are present today. I also greet and welcome our past president present, my colleague MC members, Vice President Mr. Jeevan Naidu, Secretary Chandrasekhar, Mr. Renukaji, Mr. Sandeep, and other members whom I'm not able to see right away, and other members and our CEO Geeta ji. I also see some few prominent members whom I also extend a warm welcome to you also, sir. I take the great pleasure in inviting our speaker of today, a young and vibrant startup entrepreneur, Ms. Uma Kasoji, who is the founder of an organization called The Star in Me, which is dedicated for the women upliftment and empowerment. She incidentally has recently been awarded a Woman Achiever of the Year by HMA amongst a very stiff competition. She also spoke to our students and IRP and delivered a very valuable and excellent lecture some time back. This is the first meeting being conducted by the new management committee, which assumed office during this month. And I feel very happy to start this year's activity with the topic of concurrent importance, which always is on the leadership. I, as a president, has an onerous duty to talk a few words about HMA and what the agenda or the activities for this year we are targeting at. You all are kindly aware that HMA is a unique body exclusively dedicated to management, about its various facets, ever-increasing application in every sphere of life, be it industry, business, academia, colleges, social areas, and at home. HMA has always been trying and focusing on disseminating knowledge on management in different ways through lecture meetings and management development programs for the practicing managers, SDPs and FDPs for the faculty and the students. The resource person always have been amongst the experienced and best, and mostly the content may not be found in the conventional textbook. Fortunately, HMA over a period of years successfully had good presidents and management team who always put in their honorary role to further HMA's interest and make it more vibrant and be in contention always. Last year, we had done a plethora of activities cutting to several segments. This year too, our MC has decided that the focus shall be only on management. And like one of our senior past presidents said, let us think of management, eat management, and think of management alone and nothing else. Rightly so. It is proposed to focus more and more to take it to the young managers and management engineering students by going to their doorsteps. Try to involve them, involve the corporates, and bring more practicing managers to the benefit of students and the young managers, in addition to our regular activities. The focus shall be to have more student chapters with an active agenda and give an foray to the two tier towns, where probably the levels are a little lower. The goal looks ambitious, but nevertheless can be done, for which an all-round support is needed, which I always urge and seek from all, within and outside. Focus also shall be on the women development, MSME, lecture meeting with a focus on ESG, which is now the emerging theme. MC also thought that there shall be a better engagement with our existing members and enroll more members to make HMA more vibrant. From existing members to suggest something better can be done while bringing new members and adding a little more amount of vibrancy to the organization again and again, which will also enlarge HMA's base. And guests present here, who are not our members, I request them to please join and strengthen this unique organization. A letter has been addressed to all our members in this regard, and I request all of you to kindly respond so that we can probably think a little better and do a little better. I think I spoke a lot about HMA, Now I would once again invite our guest speaker, Ms. Uma Kasoji, a young entrepreneur of today's talk, personal branding and leadership, why and how. We will wait for a few minutes to listen to her, but I feel that the topic is a live issue, leadership and its role in an organization and how leaders should conduct themselves and lead the organization, wherever they are, whether at the middle management level, lower management level, or higher management level, and to achieve the goal successfully by aligning themselves with the organization's goal with virtues and integrity. Incidentally, today there was a talk on leadership by Ms. Vinita Bali at IMA, who was at the helm of affairs like organizations like Britannia and Cadbury. She too said that leadership hold out reality and give hope. And they do it with a great responsibility and perform in an authentic, with principles and character. He or she does not stop finding solutions. And he feels that there is always a better way to do. We all know that brand for a product or service has a great value. Now probably we'll listen to how exactly our speaker today will talk about how leaders are branded, are going to be branded, or will be branded, and what is their impact on that, what are the qualities, and how it affects the leadership. We may please now sit back and listen to her and understand what personal branding is for leaders and why and how. Before I hand over the session to my colleague, Vice President Mr. Jayant Naidu, who will talk about Umaji in brief, I request the audience to please post questions, if any, in the chat box and kindly communicate that way only for a proper conduct. I also once again urge every one of you present and all the members to engage actively with HMA throughout the year and give your valuable support. With these words, I thank one and all for this opportunity given to me, and it has been the first session as a president of HMA. I thank one and all. I have received a lot of greetings from most of you. I thank each one of you once again. I'll now hand over the forum to Mr. Jayant Naidu to please talk about Umaji. Mr. Jayant Naidu. Thank you, sir.
Good evening to all the MC members, past presidents, members of Hyderabad Management Association, students, and all those who have joined this evening. So I would like to give a brief introduction of our speaker of the day, Ms. Uma Kasoji. She is a commerce graduate from Osmania University and went on to do her MBA from the esteemed Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode. And she is a management consultant turned entrepreneur. After a corporate career spanning 17 years, she decided to pursue her passion for diversity by co-founding The Star in Me. The Star in Me is a global career advancement platform for women and a diversity partner for several multinational organizations. Uma Kasoji is the co-founder of this organization and also a board member of the Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode. From incubating consulting practices to spearheading transformation programs with C-suite leaders across 5 continents, and her recent foray into entrepreneurship, Uma has very diverse experience in this area. So welcome, Umaji, and I request you to kindly take over the session.
Thank you so much to all of you for the kind welcome. It's so nice to see all of you joining on a Thursday evening. I hope I will be able to add value to you in the next 1 hour. So let me get started. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have a very interesting topic lined up for today. I'm sure all of you would have heard of personal branding as a concept, right? On the news, in articles that you've read in the area of management. So let's try and understand what personal branding is and why we should even be concerned about this. What is a brand? When Mr. Ramchandar was introducing the session, he mentioned that, branding is extremely important and we all know the value of brands. Let us now try and understand what is a brand. And I'll give you a quick example to illustrate this point. Let's say you wanted to buy a watch and you go and check out a couple of watches. This is the first one you check out. It's a Casio watch. You go and check out the second watch. This is a Tag Heuer, as you might have heard of the brand. Then you go and check out a third watch. This is a Rolex. Now let's look at the pricing of these watches. All of them look similar, right? All of them have 3 dials. All of them show time. Let's look at the pricing. A Casio watch will cost you 7,795. A tag will cost you 1.44 lakhs. Guess how much a Rolex will cost you? You can probably buy an apartment in some of the cities in India with that amount of money. So a Rolex will set you back by 29.3 lakh. So why do you think that difference exists, right? At the end of the day, all of them are just showing time, right? Irrespective of what watch you're wearing, at the end of the day, they're all showing time. So shouldn't Rolex go out of business? Shouldn't Tag Heuer go out of business because they're selling watches at 100 times, 200 times of what a Casio watch would cost, but they aren't going out of business. They are doing extremely well. Why do you think that is? Because the brand matters. What is the brand? What is the value of a Rolex or a Tag Heuer? They have established their credibility over a long period of time. If you wear a Rolex or a tag, it's a status symbol. It shows that you are someone who is successful in life and has done well for himself or herself. So this is the importance of a brand. Let me give you another example. Just look at this picture and can you guess what this is? When I showed this to someone a little earlier today, they said, is it Tirupati? People waiting outside the temple to get inside. If you look closely at the faces, you'll realize this is not in India, it's actually in China. This is the rush outside an Apple store before an iPhone gets released, a few hours before an iPhone gets released. Why? And as all of you know, an iPhone costs much, much more than an Android phone. And yet you see so many people lining up hours before the release, sometimes even days before the release of the iPhone, to stand there and wait to get into the store and get the first iPhone into their hands. So why do you think this happens? Again, it is a result of the brand and the power of the Apple brand. If you have an Apple iPhone in your hand, if you have an Apple Mac in your hand, it sort of gives you, it's almost like a status symbol. It tells you that this person is someone who values quality over price. This is a person who loves design and who values the amount of care that Apple takes in designing their products. So this is the difference that a brand makes. An Apple iPhone, an Apple iMac costs much, much more than other products in that category, but still people line up to buy them. So now we understand the value of brands, right? I'm sure anybody here, when you go to a store, whether to buy clothes, whether you want to buy a TV, a refrigerator, or a handbag, you always go and pick the brands that you know and that you trust. So we all know branding is important. But so far, we have only spoken about brands in the physical sense, objects, products that you buy. But what about personal branding? So what is a personal brand apart from, all these other brands that we spoke about? Let me tell you a quick anecdote. This was 10 years ago. I was actually in Delhi for a business meeting, and I was returning late one evening. My flight got delayed. I was waiting at the boarding gate, and I just got talking to the lady sitting beside me. So as usual, we were introducing ourselves. I asked her what she does, and she told me that she's a brand manager. So I said, oh, that's nice. What brands do you manage? And the answer that she gave me surprised me quite a lot. Can you guess what brand she manages? And I'll show you a picture very soon.
She branded herself.
No, that's a good answer. But she was managing Virat Kohli's brand. And I was so surprised to hear that. At that point in time, 10 years ago, I didn't even know that people were brands or had personal brands that needed to be managed. Now, as all of you are aware, in fact, the latest data shows that last year alone, in the year 2021, Virat Kohli made 178 crores from his endorsements alone. So that is the power of his personal brand. And after this conversation, that was the first time I heard about personal branding. And I said, at that point, 10 years ago, I thought, okay, personal branding is something that celebrities have to do, film actors, sports people, politicians, they are the ones who need to build a brand. And then time passed and I heard about the topic, but I did not pay much attention. And it was finally 4 years ago that I first realized the importance of personal branding for myself and for, all of us in this meeting. And how this happened was I had just 4 years ago started my company, The Star in Me, and I went to get my business cards printed. So I was at this Printo store. I went to collect my visiting card. I got the card and I looked at it, and this is how the card appeared. I just created a small representation of that. But the card had the Star and Me logo. It had my name and my designation in the company. And then I started thinking, the Star and Me was created like a month before I got this card published. So if anybody were to look up or try and find out what the Star and Me is, there wouldn't be much detail because it was a completely new organization. And in the past, like Mr. Naidu mentioned, I have around 17 years of work experience, and I have worked with some of the largest organizations in the world. I'm sure all of you would have heard or can recognize these logos. So I worked with GE Capital, I worked with Cognizant, Infosys, UBS, the Swiss Bank. So throughout my corporate career, my business cards had one of these logos. And anybody who saw the business card would have said, okay, fine, she works with a large company and she's a director or she's a manager. So that gave value to my business card. But today I was standing there with my new visiting card in my hand, which had the Star and Me logo, and the Star and Me was a completely new name in the market. And then I said, if somebody were to look up this card and see, is it really valuable, they would probably search for who is Uma Kasoji. Then I went to Google and I did this. I looked for myself on Google to see if somebody were to find this card, what will they do? They'll look for the Star and Me. They won't find anything because it's a new company. They will then probably go and look for my name, search for my name. And what kind of results came up? There were two results that came up after I did a Google search on myself. The first result was my LinkedIn profile link, which I'm sure all of us on this session have. The second link was to an article that I had written while I was with Cognizant. So it was a white paper that I published. So when I looked for my name in the entire universe of the internet, there were just two entries. One was my LinkedIn profile and one was my the article that I published many years ago. So that is when I realized that till such time that the Star and Me built credibility of its own, I had to build credibility for the Star and Me and add credibility to my company. So that is when I started to work on my personal brand. And whatever I speak to you today is are lessons that I have learned along my journey of trying to build a personal brand. So this is a practitioner's view of how to build a personal brand. And in the past 4 years, when I went about actively creating my personal brand, I have been asked to speak at 90 plus events of this kind. I addressed over 8,000 attendees throughout these events. I spoke at business schools, with corporates in industry conferences, in professional forums, got a lot of coverage in media, print media, All India Radio, etc. So whatever I share with you today is based on my experience of having gone through this personal branding journey. So with that as the context, what does personal branding really mean? Let me give you a quick definition. Your personal brand is the unique combination of personality traits, skills, and experiences that make you you. So as all of you are aware, each of us is extremely unique. There is no second person who is exactly like you. Even if they've studied in the same educational institutions, even if they were born in the same city, they would be very different from who you are because their personality will be different, their upbringing, their childhood would be different, and so on. So there is only one you in this entire world. And personal branding is about communicating who you are and what you have to offer. So extremely important. One is who you are as a person and what is it that you have to offer to the rest of the world, to your audience. So this is what personal branding is all about. And let us take a look at how to go about doing this. Now, the other thing that I realized over time is it's not just the Virat Kohlis of the world who have a personal brand. Each of us has a personal brand. You too are a brand, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. All of us have. Can we just mute everyone? Okay.
What is the disturbance?
Yeah, I guess we're okay. So irrespective of who you are and what you're doing, all of us have a personal brand. Now, what is in our hands, the decision that we have to make is Do you want to own your brand and shape your brand, tell people who you are, or do you want the story to write itself? Do you want people to, for your brand to be created automatically? So that is the decision that each of us needs to make. Now, if you look at this, these are news headlines from a lot of global news agencies. So you would see Inc., you would see Bloomberg, you would see the Time magazine, and so on. And if you read all these titles, it's all talking about why your personal brand is more important. It's time for brand you. Your personal brand is one of your most strategic assets. And this is a quote that I'd like all of you to read. 2 years from now, if you don't have a personal brand, nobody will work with you. This was said by Nicholas Cole, who's a very famous speaker. And he said this in 2018. So those 2 years have already passed. It's 4 years since he said this. So if you don't already have a strong personal brand, then you're already on a shaky wicket. Hence, it is urgent and extremely important for everyone to build their personal brand. Can you recognize these people? They don't even need an introduction, right? This is Elon Musk, the richest person in the world. This is Oprah Winfrey, again, one of the richest people on the world. She's a philanthropist and a very successful woman entrepreneur. This is Steve Jobs, as all of you know, an iconic entrepreneur, the founder of Apple. These are people who have built their personal brands that go beyond their organization. So, you know, Elon Musk runs SpaceX and Tesla and so on, right? But his brand goes beyond all that. You know who Elon Musk is, what he represents, and so on. So these are some brands that all of us are aware of at a global level. Now, why is personal branding important? And it's not just for people like Elon Musk, even for all of us. This is because, for example, this is an example that I keep sharing whenever I go and deliver a talk. The fact that I now see 89 participants, 90 participants on this meeting, the fact that 90 of you turned up for this session today is proof of the fact that, I don't know if all 90 of you did that or some of you did that, but in your place, I would have done this. If I had an option to attend a session, I would have found out who the speaker is and I would have gone and Googled that speaker's name to see, you know, can I find anything about that speaker? Is that speaker worth listening to? Should I spend 1 hour of my time listening to that speaker? So if 90 of you turned up, and I'm assuming at least 30 of you would have looked me up before turning up today, then I'm happy that you found something about me that made you want to spend the next 1 hour with me. So the internet is still seen as the most trusted source. So before, and I think I must have quoted this data point before. Do you know how long it takes for someone to form their first impression about you? When you meet a person for the first time, how long does it take for that person to form an impression about you? I can't see the chat window, but it takes 7 seconds. So if I were doing this in person and someone introduced me, by the time I got up from my chair and walked up to the stage, by that time you would have already formed an impression about me, even if before I opened my mouth and started talking. But today, in this virtual world, we don't even get those 7 seconds, because the moment this is announced, I don't even get a chance to come in front of you. You will look me up even before the session to find out who I am and whether I'm worth spending time with. So it is so very important for all of us to create a strong brand, because you never know who's looking you up at what point in time. Again, another interesting point, 75% of US adults Google themselves, and half of them say the results aren't positive. How many of y'all have Googled yourself, your own names at any point in time? I think you should. It's extremely important to Google yourself and see what kind of results turn up, because everyone is doing it. 90% of recruiters are doing this. When you send your resume to an organization, they first look up your name on Google to see what kind of results come up. 70% recruiters rejected candidates based on online search results. So if somebody looks you up on the internet and all they find are pictures of you at various pubs in Hyderabad, then maybe they are not very keen to recruit you into their organization. So it is so very important for all of us to understand what is there about us on the internet. Now, why is personal branding important for each of us as professionals? A strong personal brand can actually lead to promotion. So those of you who are working in corporate organizations, right? Usually when you apply for a promotion or when a promotion discussion comes up, there are multiple people competing for that role, right? For that one senior role. So why should you be selected against all the others who you are competing with? Because all of you may be equally good in terms of your domain knowledge, in terms of the work you're doing. So what eventually becomes a differentiator is your personal brand, the amount of visibility you have, the number of people who actually know about you. So personal brand affects your promotions. It helps you become more visible. It leads to exciting opportunities. You can get speaking gigs. You can get into partnerships with the kind of companies and people that you want. You can make business deals. A lot of salespeople are more successful when they have a strong personal brand. So personal branding is extremely important. Effective personal branding will differentiate you from all other professionals. Effective personal branding will differentiate you from all other professionals in your field. So this is a way to say, who are you and why are you different and better than everyone else? What is it that makes you better in whatever aspect you're looking at? So that so far we've covered what is personal branding and why is it important. I hope you're all convinced that personal branding is important. Now let's talk about how to build a personal brand. So we've covered the why of personal branding. Now let's get into the how. So how do you build a strong personal brand? There are some key principles that all of us need to keep in mind. So just to reiterate, like I mentioned, your personal branding is about telling the world who you are and what you have to offer to the world. So there are some key principles that you need to look at. The first one is define your niche. So when people think about you and talk about you, right, what do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known as the best management consultant in the healthcare sector? Do you want to be known as the best public speaker in your organization? Do you want to be known as the best lawyer in a particular industry, and so on? So define what is that niche or what is that area that you want to build your personal brand in, because you can't be an expert at everything, right? I can't say I'm an expert in the healthcare sector, plus I am also an expert in let's say pharmaceuticals. I'm also an expert in banking. So you have to decide what is that niche. And it's very important to define that niche for yourself. And this will depend on what your skill set is and so on. So spend time defining your niche. The second thing is you have to be extremely authentic, because like I said, the first thing about personal branding is to communicate who you are. So for example, if I'm one of those nerdy types who always sits with a book and keeps reading, right? I cannot create or project an image of being an extrovert when I'm trying to do it online at my workplace, because I can't fake it all the time, right? You have to be very authentic. Be who you are, because you cannot carry a fake image all the time. So your entire personal brand is built on who you are as a person. What is your personality trait? What are your values? What is your character? What aspirations do you have? So spend time understanding who you are, because that is very important. The third thing is to be consistent. A personal brand cannot be created overnight. It takes a long time. It might take 6 months, a year, a couple of years also to build a strong personal brand. So you have to keep working on it consistently. You can't work on it for a week and say, okay, fine, I tried, but it didn't work, and just give up. It's extremely important to keep at it. If you really want to build a strong brand, give it at least 6 to 12 months, if not more, to actually build one. The next one is to tell a compelling story. Typically, when you want to build a brand in a niche, if that is your core area or the favorite area that you work in, there must be a reason why you're working in that particular field, right? Like, for instance, a lot of people ask me, me and my co-founder, actually, both of us have sons. We don't have daughters. And they ask us, how come you created a venture that focuses on women and both of you don't even have daughters, you both have sons? And we usually tell them this story that her name is Mahua. She and I used to work together earlier. And once we attended an industry conference, we walked into a room. It was a leadership conference. We walk into the room, and there are 70 leaders in the room, all men. We were the only 2 women in that room. And that sort of instigated us and said, why is it that there are no women in leadership levels? And it was not just in India. Like you must have heard Mr. Naidu mention, I worked across 5 continents, and irrespective of which country I went to, I would always see this lack of women leaders in senior levels. So that is what inspired me to start the Star in Me and work on, bridging this gender gap at senior levels. So that is my story. And after I told you this story, this is something that you can remember and relate to. So similarly, find the story that is relevant to you and why you have chosen the niche that you want to be in. The next one is to network and build relationships. At the end of the day, the world works on relationships, right? People work with you because they like you, not because they, like anything else. So it is extremely important to build a network with people within your niche. So if you're a healthcare expert, try and get to know other healthcare experts in the industry and build relationships with them. So that is their credibility will eventually add to your credibility also. And the final and the most important aspect of personal branding, it is in fact counterintuitive. A lot of people think that personal branding is about, bragging about who you are. It's about self-promotion, but it is not. Personal branding is about adding value. It's about making an impact on others. It's about making an impact on the world. So if you remember the definition of personal branding, it is communicating who you are and what you can offer to the world. So here is the part about what is it that you can offer to the world? How can you make an impact? How can you add value to other people? So the fact that I'm talking about, I'm coming and speaking to you today is my way of adding value to you, because I learned this over time and I want to share my learnings with you so that it becomes easier for you as you develop your personal brand. So similarly, whenever you define your brand in whatever area, always think of ways in which you can add value to the others, because that is when you will build credibility. So these are the 6 key principles. Let us now get into the steps to build a personal brand. There are 4 steps to create a strong personal brand. The first one is to audit your current brand. Like I mentioned, all of us already have a brand. You may not know what it is today. So the first thing is to discover what is your brand today. The second one is to define your desired brand. Okay, fine, you have a brand today, but how do you want to define it going forward? 6 months, 1 month, 1 year down the line, what do you want to be known for? So here is where you define your objective. Once that is done, then you go about creating your desired brand. So if I want to be known as a healthcare expert after a year, how do I go about creating that desired brand? And finally, like I mentioned, personal branding is not an overnight journey. It doesn't happen in a week or a month. It might take 6 months to a year or a couple of years to do it. So constantly you have to keep experimenting, doing new things and optimizing your brand. So let's look at all of this very quickly before we go on. So the first one, which is audit your current brand. And this is a very interesting quote. Your brand isn't what you say it is. It's what Google says it is. So like I mentioned, even now, I mean, if all of you have your phones on you, just go to Google, type your full name and see what kind of results are coming up. Because there are 2 ways to audit your personal brand. The first one is to do an online audit where you search for yourself and analyze the search results, look up your name on Google, see what kind of results are coming up. So that will give you an idea of, what people will see when they look you up. And the other thing is, apart from the online brand, right, you should also ask your colleagues, your managers, your friends and family to describe you as a person. So if you were to go back and ask your spouse or your children or your siblings or your colleagues as to who am I, how would you describe me? Listen to what they have to say. And believe me, everybody will have some description for you. Even now, if I were to, ask you to close your eyes and think about somebody in your work and describe that person in 3 words, I'm sure it won't even take you a few seconds to do that. So spend that time, ask people around you what they think about you. That is how you will get to know what your brand is today. So do an online audit, look yourself on Google, you'll understand what Google throws up about you. Ask people around you to understand what they think about you. So that is how you get to know your current brand. The next one is to define your desired brand. And here is where you have to reflect on the following aspects. Think about these aspects. What are you an expert at? So like I mentioned, we cannot be experts at everything. So you have to decide what is that one area that you want to be an expert at. So for example, when I was defining my personal brand, I said my expertise is in the area of leadership, with specific emphasis on women leadership, because my entire venture, The Star in Me, was focused on women leaders. So that is what I as. What makes you unique? So why you, and why not, the 1 billion other people in the world who may be in a similar corporate setup? So you have to define what makes you unique. Then you have to understand what is your goal with personal branding. Why are you even doing this? Why did you attend this session today? Is it because you want to create a strong brand that will help you get your new job? Do you want to create a personal brand so that you build a reputation and people come to you and start asking you to speak at their events? They ask you to come and join their industry forums, etc. So define what is your goal with personal branding. Then understand who is your audience, because each one of us cannot communicate with everyone else in the world, right? You have to decide who exactly is your audience. Is it, let's say, healthcare professionals in India, or is it, let's say, if you're in the education sector, is it all the schools and teachers within the country? So define who is the audience and how can you help them with whatever is your expertise area. Really also reflect about what makes you reliable and what is the evidence. So today, if you notice when I started talking, right, itself in the first 15-20 minutes, I told you how I realized personal branding, how I went about building my own personal brand, and the result of that, how eventually I was asked at so many events and I ended up winning a lot of awards and got news coverage and so on. So why did I tell you all that? That was evidence to tell you that it is worth spending the next 30 minutes listening to me, because I probably know what I'm talking about. Since I've walked through this entire journey myself, I have learned a lot of things along the way. And now I want to teach you all those things so that your journey becomes easy. So it is extremely important for you to think about what is the evidence that you can bring to the table in order to convince other people. So this is how you define your desired brand, by thinking about all these questions. Now, the next step is, once you've defined who you are, what you want to be known for, here is where you create your desired brand. If you were to do it online, then these are the various things that you do. The first thing is build a strong digital profile. Most of us here are professionals. We use LinkedIn as the platform to create our profiles. When was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile? Does it show your current role? Does it show everything about your education experience? Go and check that out, because it is extremely important. When you look yourselves up on Google, right, you will notice for 90% of us, the LinkedIn profile is the first result that comes up in the Google search. So it is very important that it is right, accurate, and it is projecting, the complete version of who you are. The second thing is to create content, and I will probably cover this in a little more detail. The third thing is to attend events within your industry, events such as these, or, when it becomes in-person events, when you can actually go in person and meet people, that is important. And finally, build a network. So these are 4 steps to build your brand. Cover all of these in a little more detail. And not just online, but you need to create your desired also, because you meet people in person also, right? You can't just project an image online and then be a completely different person when people meet you. So these are a few key principles to keep in mind. Be authentic, like I mentioned again. You can't be a very polite, kind person today and be all short-tempered tomorrow. You have to be very authentic. You have to perform well consistently. I mean, this is probably the most important foundational element of a personal brand. If you do not do well at whatever is the job that you're doing, then obviously your brand will get affected. So performance is extremely important. Communicate effectively. So, like I keep telling people, if you're attending a meeting, you may be the most intelligent person in the room. Your IQ level may be off the charts, but unless you open your mouth and share your views, nobody is going to how smart you are, because unfortunately our IQ level is not written on our forehead. So unless you open your mouth and share your views, nobody will know how smart you are. So it is extremely important to communicate effectively. build a strong network. The more the number of people who know you and can vouch for you, the better it is. So today I see now 115 participants on this meeting. So tomorrow, if somebody were to ask you, okay, you attended a session by Uma yesterday, how was it? What you say to them will actually affect my brand too, whether you like the session, did not like it, whether you found it valuable. So the more the number of people who can vouch for you, the stronger. Continually hone your skills. So while I said you are an expert at a certain area, the way the world is changing today, what you know today will become extinct and irrelevant and obsolete tomorrow. So continually keep upskilling yourself, whatever is your field, read books about it, attend sessions such as these, but take up certifications, keep honing your skills. Showcase your expertise at every chance you get. Speak up in meetings, publish articles, create content, speak up and participate in every event that you attend. This is again extremely important enough to mention here. Dress the part, because like I said, right, 7 seconds for someone to form an impression about you. And in those seconds, all they will see is how you've dressed up and how, the confidence you are projecting. So it's extremely the part. Now, let us get into the details of how you create a profile. Ensure that, when you're updating your LinkedIn profile or your profile on any other platforms, ensure that you make it creative in the sense that write a description that really conveys who you are as a person. Make it visual. Nowadays, LinkedIn also allows you to add pictures onto your LinkedIn profile, add pictures of awards, of articles that you've published, and so on. So basically, the idea is will you shine through your profile. So this is the first thing, to build an impressive profile. The second one is to, just taking a check on time, I'll probably wrap up in 5 minutes. So the second one is to create content. Why should you create content? And by content, I mean writing articles. So I, for instance, write a blog quite a lot because it comes easy to me. I read quite a lot and it's very easy for me to write. So I publish at least one blog every week. In fact, I publish on LinkedIn, and incidentally, today I have written about personal branding itself. So I'll send you my LinkedIn profile. I'll put it on the chat window. Connect with me. So I publish a blog every week, to show my thoughts on a particular topic. So so either you publish a blog, if writing is not your style, you've heard of a lot of people starting podcasts where you speak about a particular topic, interview other people, which is an audio version of creating content. You can create a YouTube video if you're more comfortable sharing your thoughts on video. If you do not know how to create a YouTube channel, I think you could all ask your kids or nephews or nieces, because nowadays kids are extremely good at some of these channels like YouTube. Or if you don't want to do any of this and you don't have time to create content, you can still add value. And how can you do that? For example, if you read quite a lot, why don't you publish a short post on LinkedIn or Twitter with your key takeaways from that book? So you can always say, I read this book yesterday, let's say, these are the 5 takeaways that I got from the book, and do you agree, and so on. So that will add a lot of value to people again. Or if you came across a great article in a newspaper or share that article on social media along with your thoughts, saying, I read this article and I resonated with what the author was saying, and do you agree, and so on. Ways in which you can create and share content. Why should you do it? Because it builds, it establishes your expertise, it solidifies your niche. So it keeps telling people that this person is an expert on this area because they keep talking about it. And it also facilitates interaction, because once you publish something in whatever form, people come and comment on it, they ask questions, and that is how it facilitates interaction. So there are various things that you can do: white papers, blogs, videos, articles, podcasts. So spend time on creating. Yeah. The next thing, attend events. Now that COVID is attend events, whether it's virtual or physical, because one is you get noticed, you meet new people in your field, you have something to talk about on social media. You can always say, I attended this event and this is what I liked about it, or I attended this talk by someone and these are the lessons I learned. You get invited for future events. If people notice that you are coming for these, You may even get invited to speak at events. The more you attend, the more you tell people that I am an expert in something, they might want you to come and speak at such events. And it's extremely important to speak at events because it establishes in a big way. You can build a following. There is potential for media. There are various advantages of attending events. You build a strong network through this. And then finally, continue to build a strong network, because at the end of the day, if you heard this, so the kind of people you know and the kind of people who know you becomes extremely important as you try to grow in your professional life. So there could be various types of networks: organizational networks, which is knowing the people within your company; industry networks, which is knowing people outside your company but within; global domain networks. If you're, for example, a blockchain expert, connect with other blockchain experts around the world and have discussions. That builds credibility. Alumni networks, extremely important. So I'm part of several IIM alumni networks, and it has helped me so much, the right connects. So whichever college you've studied at, connect with alumni from that college. Interest-based communities. This is again an interesting one. All of us have several hobbies, right? So depending on whatever your hobby is, try and build a network in that area. For instance, my husband plays golf, and he has a lot of golf buddies who get together on a weekly basis. And these are really senior people from across organizations. So that is how you can build networks based on common hobbies or interests that you pursue. And finally, it's very important to have an inner circle, which is that core set of 5 or 6 or 10 people who you can call at 3 a.m. in the morning if you have a question, if you need important to build this inner circle. It could be your close family, close friends, mentors, advisors. So these are the 6 types of networks that I suggest all of us work on building. And final step in personal branding, like I said, it is not a one-day affair. It is not a one-week affair. Personal branding is something that takes a very long time. So on a constant basis, perform status checks, keep looking at yourself on Google, keep asking people. That will give you an idea. Continue to create content, continue to interact with your network, continue to show up for events and showcase your wins. So whenever you have an achievement, continue to showcase that on social media within your networks. All this will help you optimize your personal brand. So that brings us to the end of the session. I think I'm on time and it leaves us time for questions. So these are a few, this is a quick recap. Everyone has a personal brand, whether they know it or not. Personal brand, like I said, people will look you up on Google. People have opinions about you. So the only choice you have is not whether you want a personal brand, because it's already there. To make is whether you want to work on a brand and define it the way you want to, or do you want to leave it to chance and allow it however it shapes up. A strong personal brand can be built over time. It is not difficult to build a brand, but it takes time. There are the personal branding that we discussed, and there are 4 steps of personal branding. You audit your current brand, define your brand to be, go ahead and create that person, continually optimize it. So these are the key principles of personal branding. And a final message: a strong personal brand will help you attract. Today, most of the time you don't even look for jobs actively. There are people who will notice you on LinkedIn or Twitter and reach out to you saying, apply for this role in our organization. So a strong personal brand can help you attract opportunities, not just job opportunities, but partnership opportunities, speaking opportunities, etc. So work on building your personal brand. And this is what Jeff Bezos said, the CEO of Amazon: your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So if you're not in the room, what is it that you describe about you is what your brand. That brings us to the end of today's session. I hope it was useful. I can probably talk for an entire day on the topic of personal branding. It's an extremely exhaustive topic, I have written about this in my LinkedIn link with you all, but do look it up. And here is my email ID on LinkedIn, Twitter, Medium. You can find me as Uma Kasoji. Do connect with me. And then if you have any further questions now, we can open it up for Q&A. So that is all from my end.
Thank you very much, Umaji. May I request the audience to put in their questions in the chat box? Then we'll take it forward. If any questions are there, kindly put in the chat box. So maybe we can start with our President Ramchandraji has put up a question. You mentioned that women are not adequately represented as leaders in business or boardroom. Should a reservation be there, or is it based on a performance?
Still not believe in reservation. I think it should be performance based, but here is where starting from the early stages of one's career, from colleges and from early career itself, the more you encourage women to take on different kinds of roles, to speak up, to ask for what they want, the more confident they will become in doing well in whatever job they're doing, and that will automatically increase their representation. I think currently the Indian government has a mandate that you should have at least 30% women board members, which for a while I think it'll help making the figures more equitable, but over time I think it should certainly be performance based. There is another question. We do some of these things not in an organized way.
Yeah, I think it's just a comment.
I had posted a question right in the beginning. You can answer. Take that, please.
Business development, is that the question?
Yeah, it was that. Because you were mentioning healthcare.
Okay.
It could be anything. It could be an industry vertical. It could be a horizontal skill area, like you mentioned, right? If business development is what you're good at, that could be your niche. If you're good at HR, that is your niche. If you're good at a particular part of HR, let's say learning and development, compensation, etc., then that is your niche. So your niche could be anything. It need not just be an industry area. It could be whatever area you have expertise in. So for instance, if you are an amazing public speaker, then that itself is your niche.
Yeah, there's one more question from Ram Charan. What if the person who has two niches, which is both important personally, how one should evaluate his priorities and choose one?
Like I said, you should have one niche. It is not mandatory to just have one. Two niches are also okay, but stick to those. I mean, do not vary it completely. And today you talk about finance, tomorrow you talk about HR, day after you talk about, let's say, healthcare industry. After that, you talk about banking. Then people will get confused. So if it is two areas, then that's perfectly fine. But stick to those 2 or 3 areas and keep creating content, keep talking about those areas. So that.
Yeah, Dr. D.V. Ramnamurthy is asking about a strategy for USP of ourselves.
This is where I mentioned the second step in the personal branding journey, right? Which is defining what you want your future brand to be. And here is where you need to identify. There are various elements of a USP, right? The first one is your personality. What kind of a personality? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? What are the values that you have as a person? Are you like, for instance, a lot of people think personal branding is where you are oversharing on social media. And some people do that also. They talk about their family, their friends, and what their kids are doing and so on. But that is their personality type. I, for instance, do not like to do that. I stick to business and I talk about my views on business. I don't talk about family. So it all depends on what your values are, what your personality type is. So your personality in the USP. The second thing that plays a part is your expertise or the skill set that you carry. So what is your skill set? Like I was just saying, is that your expertise in HR? Is it your expertise in finance? Is it your expertise in whichever industry you're in, manufacturing, pharma, healthcare, etc.? So that is the second thing. The third thing is the amount of experience you have accumulated over time. So have you worked across multiple industries? Have you worked across multiple countries? What is that experience that you bring to the table? So all these various things creates that USP for you as a professional. So this requires a lot of thought.
Mr. Narendranath Menon is asking about your thoughts on valuation of personal brand. Might be quite a large question, but yeah.
That's an interesting question. In fact, like I said, right, initially when I was talking about that lady I met at the airport who said that she's building Virat Kohli's brand. So someone like Virat Kohli, his brand is valued at 900 crore INR apparently. But for each of us to value our brand, it is very difficult unless we are also doing ads and endorsements. However, it is a very soft, it's not a hard number, but it's more of a softer figure. It's not even a figure. It is something that you arrive at depending on how much credibility you have in the industry. If someone takes your name, what do the others say about you? What kind of opportunities do you get as a result of that? Are many organizations, for instance, wanting to hire you? Are many organizations wanting to come and ask you to speak, etc.? So all that contributes to your personal brand. Real valuation in monetary terms, I think it's very difficult unless we are actually celebrities.
Yeah, Mr. Ramesh Vemuganti has a point. Today, there are many consultants and trainers. Which social media platform they need to focus and other steps they can do to get more business opportunities?
Very interesting question. As a professional, when it is career related, LinkedIn is a must as a platform because it has the largest database of professionals from across the world. Apart from that, when you talk about professional platforms, Twitter is also good. However, in India, Twitter is not used as much. The other thing is depending on which business you are in. For example, if you have a business of within the fashion industry or garments, or if you're baking cakes and so on, maybe Instagram and Facebook are good forums. But if you're into leadership training and training on soft skills, I would say Twitter. Those are the most important professional social media forums. LinkedIn is the most important one amongst all.
The next question is from, they have not renamed themselves, so it's HMA written on it. Should personal branding be for a purpose? If not, why not we allow the natural branding to take place?
So, for example, I don't know who this is, but for instance, you are a lawyer, let us say. You are an extremely good lawyer, a law professional based in Hyderabad, and you are into, I don't know what kind of law, but let's just say you are a lawyer. And tomorrow, one of us on this session amongst the 100 of us here, one of us is looking for a lawyer. Now, what will I do? I'll probably ask my friends, suggest a good lawyer in Hyderabad, or I will go to Google and check out some names and ask for top lawyers in Hyderabad. Unless you have created a brand for yourself, right? Even if you are the best lawyer in Hyderabad, how would I even get to know who you are and that you are really good? So unless you make yourself visible, you are literally invisible. So, this is a saying that someone said, if you are not visible, you are invisible. So unless you build a brand and unless you make it known that you are credible and that you're good at what you do, nobody will get to know who you are. And obviously your business will not do as well as it could have had people known who you are and how good you are. Hence, it is extremely important to build your brand. If you allow natural branding to take place, maybe eventually people will get to know, but it will set you back by a couple of years, maybe, if you're not working on your brand.
Yeah, this question was actually from Professor Achalapati, who is one of our very senior members. And the next question from Minhaz is that regarding LinkedIn, people get into creating an account on the platform, but they fail to maintain the consistency, and on a certain day, they just lose interest. So what can you suggest on this?
So, and this is the case with most of the people, Minhas. 90% of the people on LinkedIn are not active. 90% of the people on LinkedIn do not post on LinkedIn very often. So it is just 10% of the people who are actually posting. The others are either not even logging in, or they come, but they just check out other people's posts, like something and go back. So it is an opportunity lost. You need not do it every day. I'm not saying every day of the week, go to LinkedIn and post something. Do it once a week, do it once in 2 weeks, but be consistent in whatever you're doing. And it's a personal choice, right? Whether you want to spend that 5 minute or 10 minutes on LinkedIn, or you want to watch Netflix, you decide, how you want to allocate your time. You know which one is more valuable. So it's all a matter of priorities at the end of the day. I see another question from Sandeep. Your thoughts on social media creating people who have no expertise in the niche they promote, but they get wide reach?
Wide reach, yeah.
That's another very interesting point, Sandeep. There are a lot of people, I agree, who may not really have deep expertise, but they make a lot of noise on social media, and hence they get a lot of followers. But what I can assure you is that over time, all of us are intelligent people. So we will find out as to who's really adding value and who's making noise. So initially, maybe in a short term, people may get build a lot of following. They may get influenced. They may become influencers. But over time, all of us are intelligent enough to see through, and we will always make out who's adding value and who's just, not been able to add too much value. So I think as long as we are sincere in what we are doing, people will find out over time. And like I said, personal branding is not something that happens very quickly. It takes a lot of time. You have to be very patient, and you have to be at it for a long time for things to start shaping up. But you will be pleasantly surprised. There will come a time when you will get opportunities that you've not even imagined were possible for you, when people start reaching out to you saying, I'd love for you to come and join us to speak, and so on.
Yeah, we have Raj Preetham from CMRIT. So what do you tell people to focus on as a starting point, and what are the resources you recommend?
So personal branding is such a hot topic nowadays, right? If you again go to Google and type about it, you find so many articles, so many videos on this topic. So take your pick. There are a couple of good books also that I can suggest to you on the topic of personal branding. So look up, go to Google, find a lot of interesting videos. I can share my LinkedIn profile link with you. I write a lot about personal branding, so you could probably connect with me and read some of the things that I have written. There is a book called Platform by Cynthia Johnson, which is a good book that I would suggest you read. And the rest is, there are several TED Talks on this topic, several articles that people have written.
Yeah, Ramesh Vemuganti, our past president, has a question. Is personal branding shifting and becoming more online than offline?
In fact, a very good point. It is becoming more online than offline for multiple reasons. One is because of the past couple of years, because of the pandemic. The only way we are getting to know people is through online conversations. Even now, we are all online, right? The second thing is the world is shrinking as we go. The world is becoming closer and so on. So there are people across various countries who we are working with, and for them, it's very rare that you actually go and meet someone you're working with in let's say a Sweden or a Norway. So online presence is what is becoming extremely important. So yeah, there is a certain significant shift towards the online brand more than the offline brand. But just make sure that both of them are not completely opposite to each other. You can't be seen as an extremely smart person online, and then once people meet you in person, you start, to look very underconfident. You're not able to communicate very well, then it will be a complete mismatch. So ensure that you're authentic in whatever image you're creating online.
And Naveen is asking, can we predict the tipping point?
It's a little difficult to predict the tipping point. The sky is the limit as you start building your personal brand. The kind of opportunities that you get could be unparalleled. To a couple of years ago, when I was invited by IIM Kozhikode, where I did my MBA, to come and join the board as a board member, that was an opportunity that I never could have predicted or even planned for, but it just happened. I would like to think that the work that I did on my personal brand helped towards it. But one can never say. So that is what I mean. The more you work on building your credibility and your brand, you will come across opportunities that you probably wouldn't even have planned for or dreamt of. So there is no specific tipping point. You can go as high as you want.
Yeah, Mr. Ramchandra Kulkarni is asking, can you mention any companies from Hyderabad which have benefited from your, say, talks or your offerings?
So we work with a lot of, through the Star and Me, we work with a lot of technology brands, Salesforce, Intel, HP, Infosys, Cognizant, JP Morgan, S&P Global. We work with a lot of global brands through the Star and Me. And we've helped them on various diversity and leadership development initiatives.
Yeah. Vasavi Reddy from Aurora Business School asks, what are the major steps involved in personal branding? Maybe a few points.
Right. So like I mentioned, there are 4 key steps in my view to build a personal brand. The first one is to audit your current brand. Where do you stand today? Look up on Google, ask people around you. That will tell you what your brand is today. The second thing is to define what you want to be known for. So if in a year I'm working on building my personal brand, next year, this time in July of 2023, if somebody were to look me up, what kind of brand do I want them to see? The third thing is to go about creating that brand. Like I said, create content, attend events, build a strong profile online. That will help you build your brand and continue to optimize it as you go. So that again is a very important thing. How do you continually optimize your brand? I have in fact written a blog about this also. I will see if I can find the link and share with you.
Yeah, I think we're done with all the questions. So thank you, Umaji, once again for this session. And I would now request our secretary, Mr. Chandrasekhar, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Unmute, sir.
Chandrasekhar Guru?
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. The presence itself, which is crossed 100 plus today, reflects on what people are thinking of the personal branding. In fact, this is the first session we started in this year with a high note. Initially, we thought about 30-40%, but it has crossed 160, 120. It itself reflects on how important is the personal branding. And Umaji, thanks to you, though you are more fascinated towards building leadership for the feminine gender, I know you have launched your project also on the International Women's Day on 8th March 2019, if I'm correct. Yeah, because you said when people come for this meeting, they should also go through what is happening kind of thing. One thing is, there should be an urge for personal branding, I feel. There should be an urge. There are many personal branders here sitting in this group. Out of 160, there are many sitting in the group. And you also given the tips in the sense, how do you really, what is the process flow, right from audit to content writing to whatever it is. And very interesting, it will really create a lot of interest and enthuse among the people to have their own brands now. Only one point I have is, when you talk, I know brands like Hindustan Lever, ITC products and services. When it comes to personal branding, is it sustainable Let us talk about a particular cricketer. When he's doing very well, he's on the top of this one. Yes, but what happens over a period of time? Is it sustainable?
So that's yeah. Would you like me to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a very good example. For example, you know, as I was growing up, my favorite cricketer was Rahul Dravid. When Rahul Dravid was asked to resign during, I forget which year, if you remember, there were protests in Bangalore, in a few other cities as to why is Rahul Dravid being asked to resign. And then eventually he's now become a coach and so on. Irrespective of whether he's playing for the team and how well he's playing, certain personality aspects about Rahul Dravid, how driven he is, how humble he is as a person, the kind of leadership lessons he himself followed in cricket are still extremely important. So he now runs an agency where they do leadership talks for various organizations. So people still invite him to hear his thoughts on how one can be so humble and achieve such great heights, how one can be a team player and so on. So, you know, at the end of the day, even if you're not in the prime of your, your niche, whether it's a sport or anything else, your character traits, your experience and the lessons that you have learned, they will continue to flourish. So I think he's a great example of a cricketer who did well when he was playing. He may have had his ups and downs, but till date, he is one of the most respected cricketers in India and probably across the world. So your personal brand will continue even after you've stopped being at your prime in the industry that you're in.
And in fact, when you talked about more of a personality traits, skills, appraisals, it will also help in the career progression of people working in the organization. It ultimately it works out to more of visibility, more of network, as you rightly said, network is the network ultimately. And I need not talk much about you because you already said star in you. You say star in me. We are telling you a star in you. So we not really talk much about it. Many people got benefited. It's first of its kind, having the best attendance to understand what is the personal branding and how to do it. Thanks a lot, Umaji. In fact, I have gone through your 2019, you gave an interview to All India Radio in Telugu, completely Telugu version. Okay, that's one. And in fact, I should, sir, welcome Venkat Chengavali Garu, who could make it, sir, really first time, I think, maybe after a long gap. And we are honored. And we should also thank Ramesh Vemaganti Garu.
Sir, I have one comment. As you rightly said, I came here, not that I knew Umar, nor I went through her profile. I went only because I want to congratulate Ramchandra and his team today. And I want to congratulate you for having chosen a very right topic. I wish I met Uma kind of person in my life 40 years back, so that I would have cut down my time to build my personal brand. But I'm sure her conceptual clarity and the delivery is really fantastic. I liked it so much, particularly the one what you mentioned, attending events and making sure. Frankly, I came to Hyderabad for starting Manjeera only because of Madras Management Association. I attended a lecture. I conducted a conference. That time Satyam chairman met me and called me to Hyderabad. I think my brand got built further. I think the kinds of key things you mentioned, unknowingly I practiced some of them, but I think it's a fantastic initiative by HMA. Very first lecture, I wanted to congratulate and be present here the entire 1 hour 10 minutes. My compliments to Ramchandra and the entire team. And Umaji, you are great. I am from Ahmedabad.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Hearing such kind words from all of you senior people, I'm completely humbled. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Chengavali, thank you very much for your kind presence, sir. It was really an august presence. We all know you. Everybody in the country knows you as an icon for 108. Several states you have done, and it remains today as a sort of an icon. Very frankly. Thank you very much, sir, for a nice word, and I'm really grateful for your kind words. We look for your support.
Only one thing, you could have mentioned.
There's one more.
You need a mentor for building your brand. I think a person like Dr. Kalam as a mentor to me, a person, I had a CEO for 11 years as a mentor. I think that is a very, very important thing. A mentor, a couple of mentors. It could be a guru, spiritual guru, it can be any of them. Outside the professional boss also helps us build our personal brand is my take. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry to barge in, sir, because you mentioned my name. I don't want to speak.
Great pleasure.
Umaji,
Great
in
pleasure,
fact,
sir.
there's one more brand here sitting, Ramesh Vemuganti. He is also from IIM.
Thank you, sir, Ramji. Thank you very much.
He is one of the senior most person in the past president.
I am
And
happy.
I thank all the participants who could make it convenient to attend and participate. And I thank the past presidents, Ramesh Vemuganti garu, not finding any other names here. I mean, I'm not able to see. And this is the first session, lecture session, after we took over the HM Marines. And we are overwhelming with the attendance out of 180. Like we say, note of the Hardlu. 116, I would say the figure here is an excellent. Thanks to Jayavant Naidu Garu for organizing this program. I thank President Garu. I thank each and every one for making it convenient. I thank our colleagues, our MC members, our office bearers, Jayavant Reddy Garu, Mohan Rao Garu, and others. Thanks once again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And we'd like
Bye.
to definitely would like to be in touch with you. This because it's something new for us. All these days, maybe there's an org in the belly, but it's not coming out as a brand. How to create brand for ourselves is really interesting. Yeah. Excellent session. Yes. That's why before coming here, I have gone through your 2 videos. One is All India Radio 1, there's one more, where you mentioned about 26% of women employees in this country. And you're talking something on women empowerment, diversity, higher diversity, higher performance. Okay, thanks a lot, Umaji. Excellent session. In fact, more in the chat box, I could see more compliments than the questions. Yes, I'm not saying anything. This is reality. Thanks for everybody, sir. Thanks for coming. Changavali garu, once again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Vemuganti garu.
Thank you, everyone.
Can we?
Yes, please.
Karthik, you can.
Jayavant, I would
you
like
answer.
to thank all the colleges.
Yeah.
Thank you all for attending the meeting. Closing the meeting. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.